Hello, friends. Just a real quick one, hopefully, because I didn't prepare anything. I just felt compelled to talk about it real quick because it's interesting. I like John Vervecke. He's an interesting man. Some of you may have been introduced to him through Rebel Wisdom or other platforms, the Stoa. Anyway, he's really interesting. He had several good interviews with Jim Rudd as well that were fascinating. He's an interesting guy. Anyway, he weighed in with some cognitive scientists about the AI thing, Chat GDP and all that kind of thing, and whether we should slow down, how one could regulate it, what the impact on society will be, all kinds of different angles on it, which is really, really good. I recommend listening to it if you want to spend the time. I thought it was worth it. But I just was thinking at the end of the conversation where he was talking about we should create them as if they're an entity, right? Conscious entity or something. We should program them, develop them, monitor them, use them in a way that enhances human life, creates more wisdom, helps us learn and grow and be better people and better society, all that kind of thing, which is obviously what we thought when the internet came around in the first place and the World Wide Web. It was going to make everybody better. And then I just read this article about traffic, BuzzFeed, and all that kind of stuff, how we're manipulated and how we're just dopamine machines now, data producers and money makers. We've all been commercialized, turned into a kind of commodity. Our attention is a commodity. And so the experiment or all the good things that we thought the internet was going to bring us and the World Wide Web didn't really come to fruition. What we have now basically is what I just mentioned. But anyhow, I thought AIs don't kill, people do. So regardless of what happens with the AI in the future or artificial general intelligence or anything like that, one thing we can be sure of is that human beings are going to be in charge of building these things and running these things, and we're going to be the ones using them to manipulate one another and to compete with one another and to destroy one another one way or another. So, yeah, if we have a whole bunch of wise people, wise programmers, wise business people, wise governors, leaders, heads of institutions, global institutions, and whatnot, then I'm sure we can figure out a way to make the cryptography, to make the AI secure, to be able to unplug them if they do bad things. But the thing is, I was just talking about black boxes all the time, and it's a black box at the end of the day. You don't really know what's behind it. So whether or not the AIs are conscious in some broad definition of what consciousness means, or whether they are going to make us wiser or stupider or just, manipulate us in one way or another. We know that there are going to be people behind it. And if people can easily develop AIs, obviously it takes huge data, it takes brute force computing, all these kind of things, until sometime in the future when quantum computing or some other form of whatever comes along and makes it even easier. But the dark web folks, the criminal types, they're going to be able to use these tools just as easily as anybody else. And if you think that the corporate bosses, are going to be any nicer to the average plebs and proles, you and me, who have absolutely no power, we're not even on the board, on the chessboard. We're just uh, the energy, the quantifiable money machines at the end Our attention, if it's not valuable to somebody, it's meaningless. So we're the ones they're going to cash in on one way or another. So, if the arms race, the AI arms race, it's going to be run regardless. People all over the world are into it. The genie is out of the bottle. We don't have any genie wranglers ready to put the genie back into the bottle. The only genie wrangler that I know of is circumstances, which is the greatest, most dangerous dictator of all time and forevermore. If something happens and it unplugs the machines, we don't have the energy or the grid goes down or whatever, the AI will shut off. Unless we have some kind of mini Dyson sphere or some nuclear power plant on the moon running the servers, and they can't be impacted by anything down here, somehow beaming the information back to Earth. That's not going to happen for a long time, right? And we have to live in a wet bulb Earth soon. So that's a problem. We need to figure out how to keep the machines cool. Technology will develop and continue to evolve, and maybe we'll have really cool processing chips in the future. So whatever happens, these large models, machine learning, it's going to continue to get better and better at an unpredictable and probably faster rate. And we're not going to be able to keep up with it. Not you and me. There may be people in the business who understand these things well or are behind these things, but the will to use the tools in one way or another come from human beings. Guns don't kill, people do, right? So you just have a gun sitting in a museum somewhere, it's not going to get up and go shoot somebody. But you put it in a person's hands, and if they get the whim or the will, they're going to go out and kill somebody with that weapon because it's built to kill. So AIs, I think, are built, for as great tools. I mean, I love it. I think it's really cool and interesting, and I want to use them for research and for creativity and all kinds of things. And it's exciting to me. It's another tool, another medium. But I also see the danger in the sense that if I was manipulated by a bunch of smart kids who just wanted to drive traffic to their websites, and I'm a consumer of information online, so I'm a perfect target for people like that. And if Obama and President Trump were basically driving traffic and therefore chosen as our leaders because of that reason more than anything else, then you can imagine what's going to happen when AI is wielded by powerful people with resources that aim to make more money. And so they're going to use it to capture our attention, to manipulate us, and so on. So I was watching this other podcast about CIA guy, Billio's interview podcast, and he was just talking about how they create dossiers on people in the CIA so that they can have a random meeting, and then infiltrate the person, hack the person to get information or manipulate them in whatever way they want. Well, we're all manipulated like that online anyway, on Facebook, Twitter, and all the other outlets and platforms. So we direct our attention towards things, and then that affects us. Of course, we have biases that are kind of locked in at age 10, at age 25. Very few of us really ever change after that. I learned that from the CIA guy, but I knew that intuitively anyway. If you're going to learn how to direct your attention at things that are better for your mind, better for your heart, better for your spirit, better for you as an individual, if you're going to learn how to change your mind, to grow, to update your priors based on new information, to update your theories on life and how to behave, if you have that capability after 25, which most of us don't have, that's great. You can learn how to do it. You can develop those tools for yourself and learn how to do it. But most of us are just going to be in the line of fire of AIs. We're not going to know what's quote unquote real and what's not, what's a deep fake and what's not, what's a real voice and what's not, what writing came from a human being's imagination and what's not. Obviously, there is a kind of creativity Turing test where you can kind of say, wow, that guy painted that painting from his imagination and his skills, or that guy, ran an AI and made the picture and then copied it or something. Whatever, oils, acrylics, photographs, digital cameras versus film. Our tools continue to evolve and grow and change over time, and they get more and more amazing and miraculous. But how they operate, who's operating them, and for what purposes remains a black box. We don't know. We're not in control of it. So as long as we have value in some way or can create value, and what I mean by value isn't the stuff John Vervaeke is referring to in his video conversation, but I'm just talking about money, then you're going to be here doing something for the money machine while the world heats up and while we continue to grow our economies globally. We're never going to shrink back. There's another conversation about on the great simplification. We're not going to simplify. It's pedal to the metal until circumstances tell us we need to simplify. And then we'll adapt and evolve and change because we'll have to. Because you can't grow corn here anymore. So you can't feed the cows here anymore. And that's going to make us change. Not looking ahead, figuring out how to create AIs that are going to make human beings better. We thought that might happen with the World Wide Web, and look where it got us. Well, it's a good thing. I like the World Wide Web. I like the internet. It's been good for me. But is it making us that much more effective and wise and brilliant and so on? I don't know. It's debatable, isn't it? You can have your half full or half empty perspective, or you can think everything's great. And, society and culture bends towards justice and whatever that means to you from your ideological perspective. Or you might think that things are potentially dangerous, getting out of hand, and so on. There are certain things we can't avoid, and that's when circumstances, that nasty dictator, comes into play. And there are other things we can probably control. But I think as human beings, as citizens around the world, we need to take a more active interest in what our leaders are doing, the people with the power, the players. We need to tell them what we want. There's no democracy that can really make that happen, because democracy is manipulated by powerful people with more resources, whether it's money or political power, like in China, things like that. It's interesting to really study power and what it means and how it's achieved, how it's put together and how it's used. And it's also good to understand what kind of power people may have to influence the powerful. In general, our attention is one way. We can vote by not paying attention to stuff we don't like, or that's kind of the marketplace, vote with your wallet. At the same time, it would be nice if people had a little more control, but they never have, and they probably never will. So what kind of serfs are we? Comfortable ones, I guess, compared to the old days. 100 years ago, people barefoot, poorly educated, working really hard in factories. It's probably a lot better now than it was back then or at any time in the past, but who knows? I mean, maybe ancient Greece was just a wonderful place to live, even without germ theory and antibiotics. So, AIs don't kill, people do, and we're going to have people using them for nefarious purposes and for crime and for evil. And we're also going to have people trying to use them for good. And who knows if we can make a difference with what we do as individuals out there with no power. So, yeah, I think you could probably build in so many fail safes that if AI got really, really smart, you could have ways of monitoring it that you could finally decide you were going to trash it or turn it off or firewall it in some way. And you can always unplug, I guess. The machines aren't going to run without the juice. But by the time you get to the point where you understand that this AI is really causing trouble, it may be too late. It's like social media. What are you going to do now? How do you put the genie back in the bottle? Where's the genie wrangler, right? I don't think it's going to be easy, but we're going to find out. That's guaranteed because it's not going anywhere. And so, depending on how things go over the next, I would say 5 to 10 years, we'll know what kind of circumstances we can really look forward to. But it'll still be debatable because we'll have all kinds of things capturing our attention, appealing to our biases, and making us think one way or another. And we're going to be distracted. So it's black boxes all the way down, folks. And we can hope and pray for wise AIs to make us all better human beings. But if we don't pay attention to the wise AIs or the content that can change us and help us grow and evolve into better people, it's not going to matter. You're going to go to the MAGA side. I was looking at this one conservative guy on Rumble, and his whole shtick is just that the mainstream media is evil and out of hand and, blah, blah, blah. Look at me instead. And it's just one thing over and over again. He's got one little shtick and he performs it over and over again. There's endless material for him to riff off of. And people just sit and watch it and watch it and watch it all day long. Because you don't want to look at somebody like me who suggests you read a book or think deeply about something. How boring is that? So, yeah, we'll remain human beings. We'll want to be titillated and stimulated. And that's what we're going to be looking for and responding to. It's just in our nature. But I appreciate John Vervecchi's take on things. It's pretty interesting. And, we'll see. Everybody's got a reason. But I think being too afraid of it like it's the end of the world is, in my opinion, a little bit silly because we should be able to design these things so that they can be firewalled or controlled or shut off. But again, we won't know the damage until the damage is done, and then we'll look back on it. People will write books like what happened to the traffic world and BuzzFeed and whatnot. Now we know. Isn't that interesting? But it's still the same. All the media outlets are concerned with traffic and engagement, not with enlightening people, not with making you smarter, better, more intelligent. And the end of that article was great because he said maybe a kind of journalism will come along that's slow, that takes months to develop the story, and that's deep, and so on and so forth. And it'll just sit there. That outlet, that newspaper or that online website, like a beautiful tree in a park, strong roots, beautiful, steadfast, something that you can look at every day and admire and appreciate and learn from. Yeah, that would be nice if that was the next thing, but I don't think it's going to be because we have books, we have libraries online, really great information from ancient sources to yesterday and tomorrow. And it's hard to spend time delving into something deeply when it's more fun and exciting just to be stimulated. And I imagine all the AIs are going to be very stimulating and also very useful tools for anybody who wants to use them for evil or for good. Thank you for listening. Buliam T, out.